Lisa, just pop there. We will record it. What I do with the recording, I try and pick 5-minute segments out or so, and you'll see why I do that at the end. So if anyone joins us, I'm sure they can just kind of join in. So this is, I think it's about our 21st webinar now. We run them regularly, and I think with the current hiatus and situation, what I've been very aware of is they've got to be relevant, and they've got to be something that we can relate to. And it just so happened that the theme came up around Quickfire business focus, and what I didn't know at the time when I created that schedule is that business focus would be ever so important now with what's going on around us. And why I think that's important is because I think what we're doing and what we're focusing on is as much a bit of therapy for us all and anything that we just share where we're kind of focusing our businesses and our work that we're doing, and how we can share that learning both amongst us, but can we capture that? And this is a challenge for us all. Can we capture that in a way that we can maybe share with others? Because Big Picture is all about allowing people to join the dots, and we do that by these symbols you can see floating around me in the background. For some of you, you'll know a little bit about Big Picture, but I've basically identified key elements of businesses, and the prop you've got in front of you, which I'd like you to kind of play along with, here's the kind of measure symbol coming just down this black cross here in the background. That means measure. The prop you've got has got the team. I think it's got the measure, it's got an opportunity, and it's got a challenge symbol. So if you haven't already, just tear that off. What I'm really keen for us to do is to join some dots. I think practice is really important. There's something about a psychologist friend of mine, John Finn, who talks about hitting a golf ball. It's no good telling people how to hit a golf ball. It's actually getting there and functionally practicing it. So what we're going to do is we're not just going to share where our focuses are, or our foci, I think that's how you pronounce it. We're actually going to practice by listening to each other. And when I put the overhead camera on a bit later, you'll see how I make my notes. And why I do that is because when I'm listening to what you're saying is I'm interpreting and translating, and because of that, I'm able to make additional connections using Big Picture symbols, and you'll become aware of why those are important and key. And if they make you think about the way you're going about your business differently, then that's really good. And actually, if that's a connection then you can share with others, then that's great. And when we ran this last week, something amazing happened in that just because one element of the business or the corporation that you're interested in is closed down, there are other things you can do. So without getting into those patterns too much, I'm interested as to how common those patterns are, because if there are 3 or 4 patterns that we can capture and share with others, then at least we're doing something to make the world a better place in our own little way. So I think you're all comfortable with Zoom. I prefer gallery view, which is up in the top right. I've asked you to learn to use mute. I can't hear any background sounds or anything, so everything's fine. I will not mute anybody. It's an open dialogue. If at any point you want to indicate me you've got a point, and there'll be a specific section for that later, I am very happy to give way and listen to that point, and we'll work it through. The prop you've got in front of you, if I just start sharing my overhead camera, I'll show you how I use it. So just so you can get the most out of this session, if you've got your prop here, then at the top, this is how we work with Big Picture. So you can take off these symbols on the left-hand side, just like tear them off. I know Dan's done that. I haven't got my scissors with me at the moment. Now you'll see the prop, and you can put your name up here. So this is me, Mart, and for the purposes of this demo, what I'd like you to do is to just box off that center section, and I just write in there operations, or it could be delivery, whatever it is there. This is the center of the page where you create the most value. To the left of that, I've got a marketing box, and to the right of that, I've got customer care. The yellow customer journey, I think for all of you, will be your customer or client journey for the business that you care about. I think for Dan, that could be the student journey. We're joined by Dan today, who's an educational professional I respect enormously from the a local sixth form. And what I'm really keen to hear is how his best practice translates into the context of business, because I think the patterns there will be similar and things we can learn from in a business context. So straight into the kind of interaction element of what we're going to do. What I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to stop sharing. And what I'm going to ask you to do is all do a bit of an introduction into where your focus is at the moment. Now, what I want you to think about when you're talking about that is you can mention what the, you know, what the business is, what it is you're doing. I want you to do all this in about 45 seconds to 50 seconds. The hourglass sands will drain down. And by the end of that, what I'd like to understand is what your current focus in, what you're spending your time doing. Now, it might be just an idea that you've got that you should be doing, or it might be something that you're actually executing on, that you're actually doing. And that focus will provide the basis for an insight and some maybe advice that we can capture, which we'll do immediately after. So as we're going through people's descriptions of their focus, please take notes and try and do it in the form of, is it something we're talking about in operations or delivery? Is someone focusing their efforts in marketing? Or are they doing something with their existing customers, which would be over to the right-hand side of the page? So last week I couldn't concentrate because I had to tee people up. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, once you've done your 45 seconds or 50 seconds and you see the hourglass come down, I want you to nominate somebody else to do it just by their screen name, if you would. And I'm going to start off with Carol. And remember, please, to unmute yourself. And once we've done everybody, we'll reconvene and I'll explain what the next step is. Is everyone okay with that so far? Fantastic. Only because, Carol, it was the only name. I've got so many dialogues open, I could only see one name. So yeah, there's the hourglass. You're off and running.
Okay, so I'm mainly, I am a freelance trainer. I mainly work face-to-face. Most of my delivery is soft skills and quite difficult areas, abuse, sexual violence, domestic violence, when it comes to children, bullying, all types of stuff that you would think doesn't work online. On Monday, I had to make a 1-day presentation into a 2-hour presentation, and below me, it actually worked. So it's like, hang on a minute, there is a brand new normal here. Some of the stuff I've been afraid of doing, apparently I shouldn't be quite so scared.
Who would you like to nominate, Carol? Thank you for that.
Margaret.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? I've unmuted,
yep.
I think.
Yeah.
So I'm in a similar place. I do board development. So I work with boards of directors on behaviours in the boardroom. And like Carol, I had always thought it could only be done face-to-face, but I was really lucky that a client, my most recent client, asked me to design e-learning. And I've been doing that. I've done 3 programs so far. And I'm now looking at how could I take all the material that I currently deliver face-to-face and deliver it in a different way and get similar results with it. And yeah, I've been practicing doing that. And in addition to that, writing research.
I love the way you did that. Who next, Margaret? Who would you like next?
So I nominate Russell.
Thank you, appreciate that. Hi everybody. So for me the focus is, in theory, what I've been doing for the last 8 to 10 years is exactly what we need right now. So resilient leadership in a VUCA world is my speciality. So hopefully, without trying to sound arrogant and egotistical, for me the word unprecedented doesn't exist. The fact that we're in crazy times is the normal. It is the norm. So my challenge is trying to find a way to get people to listen to that. So it's a timing issue. So right now I'm doing loads of preparatory work around blogs, videos, tips around resilience, tips to lead in a VUCA world, to get those out there on social media. But my challenge is when's the right timing to hopefully get people to look up from being in the thick of it, then at some stage to go, actually, Yeah, leading in crazy times is the new normal. So I need to turn to Russell and go, right, he knows about this stuff. That's my challenge.
Thank you. Who's
And
up?
I nominate Bethan.
You. So I'm probably wearing a few hats at the moment. So I'm a healthcare innovation consultant. So you can imagine from that it's fairly hectic, and I'll explain more in a second. I'm also a business mentor, and the two overlap quite heavily in the fact that I work with a lot of smaller businesses that need to connect with maybe larger organisations in healthcare in order to innovate. And one of the biggest challenges we have at the moment is lots of the businesses I was working with before were forging great collaborations with healthcare. They were very focused and very clear on the path that they were moving. And a number of them are now a little confused. Do they continue on that trajectory as they were? Or given the amount of disruption that's happening, although that's not massively clear at the moment, do they start to pivot and change their business and change their offer? And what I'm finding is a huge amount of overwhelm, because businesses are trying to understand, you know, are they being reactive, or actually are they just making the most of a good opportunity? So I think it's that dilemma: how you help a business to stay focused and potentially productive, making the most of an opportunity, but not also have that overwhelm. So
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bethan. We might come back to that one. I made notes. I'm just going to start the time again. Who's up next? Who would you like up next?
I'd like Dan next.
Go, Dan.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Very good. So I'm an assistant head teacher and head of sixth form, and I took that over, must have been about kind of 6-9 months ago now. Obviously, with the schools being shut, kind of gives me an opportunity to think about some more strategic things. So been working really hard at how I can create a culture of hard work, kind of bringing success, and doing a lot of kind of reading around that. Because I've got pockets of staff and students that are on board, but there are quite a lot of them that aren't, and how I kind of develop that in them. And the other thing is how I can engage the local community to enrich the curriculum. I haven't got a big budget at all, and it's how I can kind of engage the community to enrich the curriculum and to provide opportunities for the kids that are really engaging.
Thank you very much, Dan. Who's up next?
Bev.
Go,
Hi,
Bev.
thank you. Okay, so I run Nuggets of Learning, where we help people to think and work differently. And like the other people, I believe that, yeah, delivering workshops, my USP really was making it as interactive as possible and getting people moving around a room. So I was slightly flummoxed, obviously, by what's happened. But again, being resourceful, have created the book club, which was, again, a way to keep myself engaged and keep people learning. And I've also delivered, like Carol, I did deliver a workshop remotely. So it can be done. But I guess a bit like Margaret, I'm now looking to see how I can get my material out there. And that's my focus, really. And I'll nominate Hugh.
I don't think he knows because he just put his headphones back in.
Hugh, it's over
Sorry
to you.
about that. Sorry, somebody just came to the door. Would you believe it?
I know, it woke us all up.
Okay,
We were
so I'm Hugh
concentrating. Go on.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Hugh Griffiths. I am Managing Director of APD. What I've been doing is working as a business consultant, business analyst for small businesses. And how it has changed is that one of the main areas I concentrate on is break-even analysis, which means looking at people's outgoings. And I have found that I've had a lot more work since this has happened, because all of a sudden people need to know exactly what their outgoings are in order to stay in business, so that they will be in business when this is all over. So that is how things have changed for me over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
No, that's excellent. Howell, thank you very much for that. I know it's Craig's just joined, but I'm sure we'll just play along. He is big picture aware. Who's left to, it's Nigel, I think, isn't it? Is that right? Let's go, Nigel.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Nigel Greenwood. For the last 7 years I've been face-to-face, but we're well advanced with our plans to move online. In the summer we'll launch 2 products, one of which can work out what advice somebody needs when they want to start their own business. And our key challenge is, one of our main markets will be charities and social enterprises that help people start businesses. So my key challenge is working out the best way to identify and communicate with them.
Superb. Bang on time as well, Nigel. Look at that. That's fantastic. Thanks for that.
And then I think there's Chris left.
Oh, sorry, Chris, because you know what? It's because there's no video camera there. It has taken me by surprise. Sorry, Chris. Well spotted, Nigel.
I'm not speaking to you now, Nigel. I was trying to stay under the radar.
Ah, brilliant. Well done, Nigel. Top work.
Hello, I'm Chris. I'm similar to quite a few of you, I think. We're training providers, and one of the challenges we've got at the moment is converting face-to-face training sessions and courses into online. We've done a lot of student support via Zoom in the past, but never the actual delivery from beginning to end. So it's all very new and exciting, to be fair.
Excellent. Right, lovely. Craig has joined. I don't know if, Craig, you want to just give we're just doing a minute on what you're focusing on in the business. And I think I know, but others might be interested too, if you're willing to share.
Of course, yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Craig Jones Stanley. I know one or two.
Oh, he's gone on mute. You muted yourself, Craig.
Try again. Sorry about that, everybody. Yes, so Craig Jones Stanley, I'm a business architect and transformation specialist. Been working for 20 years in change and transformation. And recently I've been working to bring together a model to simplify transformation for people so they can help understand where connections need to be strengthened so that their transformation efforts are more effective. And particularly to recognise simple truths that a lot of change professionals will recognise, the majority of which revolve around rethinking how we consider change and accepting that as a constant, and building the capability to more readily adapt to change within an organisation and de-risking that big bang transformation, which often results in failure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Craig. I think what we've been through there, and I've made my own notes, and I've got a bit of a hunch as to where I want to go with the focus in a bit. However, what I'd like to do is just send you into little groups, because in having 12 or so people on there, it's too many people to get their view on. What I'm really interested in doing, and I'll just put you in little groups to do this. I just want, with the notes that you've got in front of you, what I'm seeking as an output after the time runs out, which is 3 minutes, is when you come back into the group, I would like you to park either a theme of what you've heard in terms of focus, or better still, translated into a one line of advice that we would give each other and maybe people outside of this group. And I want that all to come together. So strap yourself in. I'm just going to send you off for 3 minutes. Come back, have a chat, come back, and just park a theme or advice from what you've talked about. Hey, Craig.
Hello. You okay?
How's your day going?
Yeah, very well. Just had a nice walk with the girls and the dog.
Oh, nice. Do you have your little set walk, or do you try different things?
We tried something a little different today.
Oh, nice. We take our dog out, but I think the kids do it more than I do. I don't do it that much, but it's a nice outlet for them. So
Nice to participate.
Oh yeah, are you able to follow along on the digital kit?
I'm going to do that now.
Fantastic, because I'll do it on paper, and then fantastic. I think we're all back. Are we all back? We're all back. Aye. Thank you very much. So I don't know what went on in the room, but if you could park a bit of advice, just one line from your group. One of you could do it per pairing or three. I'm not going to hang around, but if you could just park a bit of advice, I'd just like to capture that as a bit of an insight into what we think, based on the focuses that you've heard, what the themes might be and what that might mean in terms of advice for others. So just park that in the chat. And I'm going to move on, and I'm looking down at my notes, and I'm intrigued by the different angles we've taken, and I'll explain why. And I'm going to pick, I've got 4 circled, but I'm actually going to ask if we can go to Dan, to Carol, to Bethan, and to Hugh for different reasons. And I'll let you know what that reason is as we go to each. So Dan, if we could start with you. The reason I'm intrigued by the focus that you described is because, and I'm just going to run my little background again, because we're just going to spend a few minutes on this. If we just revisit what you were talking about there in terms of, I think you started with a point around something about culture. Could you just explain a little bit more about that? I think it was around hard work.
Yeah, I mean, so as I say, like I've only started in posts kind of fairly recently, but I think it's a massive thing for me is if the kids work hard and prepared to really kind of put in a shift of work, that really does bring success. And I think some of them join in year 12 and they don't necessarily appreciate the amount of kind of time and effort and how putting in those hours actually makes a massive difference. So I'm trying to, I say, just create this kind of culture of working hard and how that really reaps rewards. And
yeah. And on that point, Dan, on that point, if I may, is that what I recognise and what I'm intrigued by is that you've got the student journey coming through from left to right here. And if you have got the prop in front of you, then do play along. I don't see the pattern any differently to a business, which is at the top, you have the purpose of the business, in your case, the school. To the left and right, you've got a place here on big picture for core values. And I think what you've talked about there is the hard work and the culture and the way you're weaving that in. But actually that affects pretty much all of the school. And instead of this being a customer journey, I guess you still need to attract students to the school, to the sixth form, because it's a competitive environment, I guess. Is that fair?
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, we've got loads of local competitors, and you know, if we get more numbers, we get more money ultimately, and we're able to then provide better provision. So it's a kind of self-perpetuating thing, really.
Yeah. So this is your student journey. What the key connection that I would kind of bring in, just by the way I'm laying it out here, and you can do the same with the prop that you've got in front of you. It might get a bit busy if you've just got the one prop, is that what I would be considering just as a simple connection is at which points of this student journey are there better and worse ways to spend your time weaving in that element of culture around hard work. Like what I've got here at the center is the actual provision of learning. This is maybe the transition stage here, which I know you spend a lot of effort into getting right, bringing children in from the school. So you attract them, you then transition them into kind of sixth form environment. So there is it a challenge or an opportunity to bring it in like here where I'm pointing? Is it at that point? Is that the opportunity? Or is there another step along the student journey where that is actually a better place or time to do it?
I think that's the ideal time to start. I think it's something that you know, because I do a lot of, well, kind of this year kind of brought in the idea of kind of working with parents very early on, and did a workshop with parents, did quite a lot of workshop with kids. So it's the ideal opportunity, I guess, in transition to do some of that work. But I think in order for it to be really effective, it has to run right the way through their experience. They've got to hear it a lot. And
so basically, you're running it, you're considering it all along, and I guess you've got different teachers and different members of your team working with the students at different points. So basically, it's going to, the value is going to be in this central bit where they're actually consuming lessons or the educational service that you provide, but there may be considerations up and downstream, but the student journey is as important for you as it is a business and their customer journey. So considering the different steps and basing everything you do around that journey is actually important as well. You mentioned something else in the time I just wanted to cover briefly, is you talked about working with a community, and that's one. Could you just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so like we have a tutorial program. So obviously there's a lot of stuff going on within school with delivering like an academic kind of curriculum. But one thing that I've been really keen to do is to work with the community to find out what resources there are within the community and trying to tap into those, because we have a very limited budget, and actually it's been quite incredible what the community are willing to offer and what they're willing to do, you know, not only with the students but also just generally, like in terms of, you know, resources, and they've been fantastic. And it's just trying to find ways in which to get that working, you know, in the best way, because if I'm trying to work with local businesses, I don't necessarily understand the constraints that they work within. They don't necessarily understand the constraints that I've got. But there's so many resources really to kind of to tap into in the local community that I'm just starting to explore really.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So what I've captured just in this short time, and this is how connections are really important. We've seen how the hard work culture comes in, and that would be all encompassing across the whole of your big picture in effect for the whole sixth form. There's this point here about the weaving that in, but particularly at the point of delivery, at the learning where the value is created, but also up and downstream of the student journey, but also the least visited areas of the big picture board is at the top, where in business terms we've got relationships with partners and suppliers. But what I've interpreted there, Dan, is that this is about community for you, and with limited resources, engaging with a community, actually you've been surprised by their creativity. So what we would do, whilst I'm using poker chips here, by using smaller symbols and stickers, we would develop those connections using the other symbols, such as the process or maybe some technology. And this is what gets us thinking around how there are kind of different ways, to do it, because it gets you thinking differently about a problem. So I'm going to move on to another one. My time has kind of moved on, so I'm going to set it going. So thanks for sharing that, Dan. I'm just going to rip off another piece of paper. Can we go to Bethan, please? Because you explained something, Bethan, that I was interested in, because I knew one of the topics that was going to come up was around the center of the page here and refashioning what it is you deliver. So packaging up, productizing it as you might consider. And I think we're all thinking about that. And we could take a number of examples about what we're doing to change the way we deliver what we do. But actually, you mentioned something in your description, which was around how you maybe are thinking differently about your clients and your customers. Would you just explain a bit more about that?
Are you talking to me, Martin?
To Bethan, please, for this one.
Bethan.
I'll come to you in a sec, how you, because there's something I want to talk to you about.
No worries, no worries. No worries.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many different angles, because I think my work is made more complex because I do work in healthcare innovation. So I think absolutely there's a group of people and businesses I work with where it's actually just about delivering their business differently. And for some of them, it's also about understanding the value they provide can be reframed. So it's not necessarily even about changing their business, it's about marketing it in a slightly different way and recognizing that the pains and gains that the current customers are experiencing have changed. So there's those two aspects. But I think the bit that maybe I didn't explain so well, the challenge is the fact that COVID, it's a distraction and an opportunity. So for some businesses, they were on a very, very clear path of development. You know, these are tech businesses and non-tech businesses. But what some of them have done have paused the day job and have gone, actually, we now need to do something different because we feel that we're well placed to respond to this sort of national challenge. And a lot of them are doing it for free. So a lot of them are doing it for a huge financial hit for their business as well. So it's I think that's what they're struggling with sometimes, or not necessarily struggling, not even thinking about it. Some of them are going, actually, I'm going to park the day job, but I'm going to do the thing that feels right. But obviously the challenge will be in the longer term, what will that mean for their business?
Yeah, no, that's lovely. And I think what I've noted there is that you're certainly considering this left-hand side of the big picture in terms of the customer and the clients and who they are, almost revisiting both their makeup, their personas, their mindset, their kind of appetite for what it is that they're doing. And in a way, in the background, they're looking at their own delivery at the center and working out. So there's this kind of knock-on effect, a kind of series of consequential events that you're investigating. So I'd love to go to town on that, but the reason I was intrigued by it is because you can see just by shifting the page, actually we're talking less about your delivery at the center. What you've done is you've reflected on how you need to maybe think about how you react and position yourself and maybe your messaging. And that's interesting as well, because the pattern we saw last week was that, yes, this is closed off here, but look across your whole business, there are other things you can do, mostly in delivery and productization. Yes, as we've seen with Dan in the relationships area with community, we've not talked about at the bottom the management and administration yet, and the right-hand side, maybe dialoguing with different customers. And we're not going to have time to go to Hugh's example, but what I did want in full for 5 minutes because of time, but what I did want to do is just to recognize that you mentioned, Hugh, about specifically looking at the client's kind of outgoings. And you found that as a bit of an area, and we've got a money symbol in big picture and a kind of measure symbol. So I think what you brought into the equation there is you've identified a very specific area of focus. I just think in a minute, my hourglass has gone to pot for the timings, but just explain for a couple of minutes why outgoings, how did you come across that? It's a very specific thing.
As far as I'm concerned, most people when they're in business look at what their profit is going to be. In the situation that we're in now, you're not going to have a profit if your outgoings are too much, because you're going to end up without a business. It's a very, very simple way of looking at how things are at the moment. Very quick example, only take a few seconds. One of my clients, £1 million turnover, but £60,000 average a month that they spend. I've now got it down to £15,000 a month over the next few months in order to try and keep them in business so that when this is over, they can start growing back again. Yeah. So that was the reason for going down that road.
No, that's beautiful. And what I've drawn here, and this is how I connect things together. This is how I understand things. And sometimes when you put this in front of people, it triggers a thought. And the thought is what you've described there, Hugh, is that for your clients, if this was a big picture for your clients, their outgoings, and let's just focus on operations for now, like at the center of their business, their cost of production or whatever their business is, the measure of their outgoings here has actually resulted in you reflecting on your big picture, just like Bethany's, as to how you should position yourself and how you should communicate to your potential clients, existing and new, how that might be different. And therefore you've got this connection. So you're almost there without sending the brain into a fizz. You've got one big picture, but actually it's the cost of outgoings for your clients in delivery that's changing the way that you're potentially positioning. And I think I need to be careful with that I don't confuse matters. But it's a link between your client's delivery and their outgoings to your positioning. And I think there's a theme on this webinar with Bethan's example and yours, which is there's very much a strong thought around, if I call that positioning, how we are positioning to respond to the hiatus as it stands. And that's something I want to take away. So certainly, I'd love to go into it further, but we've not got time. There's one, thank you for that, and thanks for your contribution. There's one other area I'd just like to go to Carol before we end as a last example. Carol, if you wouldn't mind sharing, you described, and I'm as intrigued with your delivery in the specialist areas in which you work. You said about repackaging or changing the way that you deliver, which is certainly a pattern that we saw last week. Could you just explain a bit about what you did before and how what has happened has changed the way you're packaging up your product and service? Is Carol with us? I'm not sure if Carol's dropped off.
No, I just...
Oh, there you are.
I'm here. I just stopped. I messed up my microphone.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, it's working now.
Thank you. Yeah. What Bev and I were talking about earlier in the breakout room was what I need for most of, I have lots and lots of different groups that I deliver to, but the underlying theme is that sense of being authentic, because there are a lot of times when you need to share, or you need them to share something sensitive, something intimate, something personal to them. And you don't have the classic horseshoe setup, you don't have that physical presence. So it was actually making sure or trusting that an online delivery, which is the only option we have at the moment, is possible. Okay.
That's beautiful, and I no, that's lovely, Carol, and I don't want that point to be missed. In the time that we've got, I look for connections, and what has happened there by you talking, authenticity is one of your core values. It always was, and it always will be. What presents the challenges here, if you more than anyone, by taking that delivery online, it presents a challenge. How do you bring that trust and authenticity down? So how are you getting on with that? Where are you in your thought process as to how you can do that?
I tried a couple of things. I was talking to Bev about, I tried a couple of things. Basically the reassurance at the beginning, and, you know, sharing a personal story of my own to just set the scene. Creating a sense of eye contact. I've done it now because I was practicing before when I did my own workshop, to make sure that I position the picture of me underneath my camera, so I'm giving as much eye contact to the audience as they deserve, so that again signals to them that I'm available, that I'm here 100%, and that I'm listening 100%. I don't know if that helped on Monday, but it certainly did go well on Monday.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, Carol. And again, I'm always apologize for how brief the time is, but a connection you've made there is, and I know, well, Hewell's a business analyst consultant type, so he'll recognize the kind of process symbol. We have a process symbol in big picture. I know you said it was eye contact, which sounds a very human and personable thing. But in analytical terms, it's a bit like a process. So if you were writing that recipe or that script for somebody else, it's a bit of an eye contact kind of, there's an opportunity there to embed that. That's one idea. We might explore other opportunities. So if I was to give you 3 or 4 opportunity symbols, it might stretch you to think differently about, oh, what are the other 2 or 3? And the other thing I would mention in the time is I always like to play a game of, you can see the clustering there in the center of delivery, and that's where your focus is. But just based on what you know today, what does that mean for your marketing? What does that mean? No one today has talked about the kind of management and administration and what's going on in the background in terms of how might that affect, how could those processes maybe captured in a catalog or in some form in the background, how is it affecting the management and administration? We've seen from Dan's example Could it change the way you relate to partners and suppliers and deliver your business? It's about breaking maybe open specific ways of thinking about to think, actually, either, yeah, I thought, I get that as a thought, but it's no good. Or actually, I get that as a thought, and actually that creates another opportunity, either in marketing, in partners and suppliers, in management and administration, or maybe in what we call customer care, which is, what are we doing? What does this mean for the clients and customers that you've had previously, that you might revisit and say, do you know what, we did that thing that you really liked. Guess what? We've actually changed the way we do it. We would like you to come back around or refer us to other people who might like this online delivery. And it's that joined up and connectedness that firstly we think from a systems thinking perspective, everything's connected together on the same page using specific symbols to represent things. I think we've pretty much talked about most of the symbols. I would throw a measure on there for that conversation. What are we measuring? How do you know that eye contact, how that different delivery might work? So it can go left and right and up and down, and that's it. And I would just thank you for all sharing and contributing. I always need to watch these back to pull back out. I keep all the pages, and what I do is I extract some of the patterns, because if they're patterns that might be working for you as a focus, they might then work for others as well. And I think if we can capture them in a simple way, it's a bit like a conversation where you say, I'm trying this in my business and it seems to be working. What would the equivalent be for you in your business? And I think it's that kind of cue and prompt which works. And I think we've demonstrated today, it doesn't matter whether it's a sixth form, a school in education, we've got somebody that we're delivering value to, and it's in this form of pattern. And because of that, we can, I think, innovatively and creatively stimulate our thinking to capture those ways and then apply them in different contexts. And it leads to really wholesome, healthy conversations that anybody can get involved with. I'd love to come to you if I had the time, Nigel, because of that customer journey I know is something that you and I have discussed. So our conversations will continue. I am 3 minutes over and we've packed quite a lot in there. I would like to thank you for your time this afternoon as we go into the Easter break. What I would say to you is, do have a reflect, have a think. When you get the email, which hopefully won't land in your spam folder, it will land in your inbox. Do provide me with any kind of feedback, any connections you've made, any thoughts about who might benefit from this kind of simplifying of complexity in a way that we can all get, I hope. And I'd love to share with you any future sessions. You can find out loads more at yourbigpick.com. We have to remember what we sell. We sell kits to everything you've seen today. We provide, you can see on the website. We run workshops like this, which are even more fun in a room because we've got the tactile physical kits to use, and we weave that into people development, which is induction, training and performance, and also business development, which is current focus and future plans. And that's pretty much all we do. And I would just like to thank you all again. We're all at different stages of our conversations, but you're very welcome to come on the Quickfire Business Focus series. And also next week there's an induction webinar, and there's one every week at the moment. So a big smile and a wave for the camera, and I'll wish you all a lovely Easter weekend. Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.